Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Joel Elston here. Today is Thursday, June the 7th, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for the day. And once again, I'm happy to welcome you back. We love our listeners here. I keep saying it now. I've been saying it all week. I'm going to continue to say it because I think, Joel, we have the best listeners in the world. And maybe I'm biased. I know it's our show. But I'm telling you, we have fabulous listeners. We know that from the input we get when we get an email or somebody calls into the show. But, I mean, we have some of the most creative, diverse, positive, happy, enthusiastic listeners that I've ever heard of. So, I mean, we may not have the millions that, like Rush Limbaugh has or Oprah Winfrey or something like that. But I tell you, we've got the best listeners. We've got the cream of the crop.
Well, and I certainly agree. I know, and of course we are biased, so let's establish that early. But sure. We have,
but I don't mind that.
We have incredible lists. Yeah, and there is a positive bias, so we can put that spin. But the beauty of where we're at with it, with our what I believe, what makes our listeners so special, and law of attraction type people listening, or that our future listeners as well, is the chain of events leading people to discover the law of attraction is fascinating to me. And, we have all different walks of life, all different religious backgrounds, all different upbringings. I mean, just races, everything you can see that traditionally divides people. In a sense, we all have different paths that lead us to the law of attraction, the way of thinking.
Yes.
And I just get fascinated by that concept, and I love it, and it's such it intrigues me how we all end up here, and I just hear constantly stories of people, well, here was my path here, here's my discovery. So our listeners, by the time they get here, they have been what I call vetted in life. They have had stuff happen that led them to here, so they're all in, they're appreciative, that energy, I pick up on the energy of our listeners, and I love that.
Me too, yeah. And I agree with you. The energy is two-way. That's what's so cool about it. Because obviously we're putting out the daily dose of happy every day. So that's sending the energy their way. But you're right. They send energy our way too. And we can feel it. We can sense it. We sense it not just in the words that we read and what they say in their voices when they call in. But, I mean, we just pick it up. It feels good to do the show. And I know that's probably because of the listeners. So thank you, listeners. Thank you for continuing to be listeners.
Absolutely. I have a gentleman that I received a voicemail from, and I was in session. I couldn't take the call. And so he didn't have a callback number, and he just was very polite and very nice. And he said, he said, my name is Sam, and I randomly discovered your show. This was from last week. He said, I really needed to hear that. And I just wanted to let you know that, without getting into detail, he didn't get into great detail with me, but he simply said, this affected my day maybe more than anything that's affected my day in my life. And that's a powerful statement. And I would love to have known how to call or talk with him. I would have loved to speak with him, but again, there was no number attached on the phone, and he didn't leave a number, and I think he probably didn't, want to be contacted, but if he is listening, I'd love to hear back from you. I'd love to respond, and I'm intrigued at how that helped you. But more than that, taking the time to go to my website, get my phone number, and to call me was a strong energy. And I really, I'm hoping that energy is continuing. And I just love that he reached out. It reinforces what we're doing. The contact that we're making with our audience. My ultimate goal is to have this going on, on a larger scale than we're doing now, because I do believe that there's a great thirst for this self-knowledge and this understanding of how the law of attraction can be used properly in your life, and how to leverage what's already taking place to your advantage. And I think people that discover that, they really quit being the victim of life, and they start living it and start attracting exactly what they want. And that's what we do here.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. And it's one of the reasons why we do the show, because there is such a hunger. There's such a need for feel good, for stuff that just feels good. It helps everybody whenever we're feeling good to kind of turn things around in our lives. A great example of that. Now, this is not something that came directly out of the show, but it's something that I noticed today, and I wanted to share it with everybody because it helps give everybody a little bit of a lift. Now, I know, Joel, you're not a baseball fan. I am a baseball fan. I like baseball. You would rather go to the dentist than watch a baseball game, and I get that. But we don't have to think about this as a baseball story. This is a human interest story because it really is. Now, my favorite team is the New York Yankees, and yes, all of you who are Yankee haters, you can feel free to boo. But that's okay. I'm used to it. But the Yankees were playing in Toronto yesterday, and it was the second of a 2-game series. They'd won the first game, and in the second game, it was a pitching duel throughout the game. 12 innings, no score. So it was a really, really tight game. Before the game, there was batting practice. They always have batting practice before the game, right? And there was this kid who was out in the left center field bleachers with his father, and he had a Yankee shirt on. His father had a Yankee shirt on, and he had a sign that said "All Rise 99" and a picture of a gavel, which refers to the Yankee phenomenal player Aaron Judge. He was a second-year player and just tearing the cover off the ball. So this is an Aaron Judge fan. And during batting practice, his hero hit a batting practice home run to where he was. He got a batting practice souvenir while watching Aaron Judge take batting practice. And the kid was so excited. The camera was on him, and you could see him mouth the words, "That was Judge! That was Judge!" He was so excited. Well, they go through the game. Awesome. They go through the game, 13th inning, tie game, 0-0. Guy on first base, Judge comes up and hits a mammoth home run to left center field, just to the right of where the kid and his father are sitting. And the kid is jumping up and down. He's high-fiving his father. He's fist-pumping. He's waving his sign. He is the happiest kid in the world. The sports announcer, Kenny Singleton, who used to play for the Orioles, a great outfielder, all he could do was just laugh, because the kid was just so exuberant with his joy. You didn't have to say anything. You just watched this kid capering around. He was the happiest kid in the world. I mean, that's the kind of thing where you see that, and if you don't take joy from that, you're just not paying attention. That's all there is to it, because the kid was just loving life in such a big way. It was wonderful.
Yes. And that is such a logical place to be at. It's such a where you see the happy, you see the joy, and one of the things that we're about is wherever you're going to find your joy, and God bless anybody that can find joy in baseball. I really like that.
We'll state that right up front, right?
Yeah. So but all kidding aside, the fact that that does do my heart good to see that type of just enthusiasm, because in life you see we just are constantly inundated with just stuff that isn't always positive or it's flat out negative. And so to really be able to focus on moments of joy, I believe that the real story that takes place every day are things like that, real joy taking place. Kids, that really just are able to live within the moment and live in that joy over something as simple as a $3 baseball coming your way and who it was hit by. That's a very big thing.
It is.
And so it's if adults could ever let go of what's happened and find ways to live within that joy of those little things, it's such a great way to live. And there's people that just don't, they flat go the opposite of that. They run from that. I don't know what they're necessarily afraid of, but it is such a sad, state of affairs where we live in a lack of joy. And joy is, joy and gratitude. Those are the emotions that we put out there that absolutely uses the law of attraction to our advantage. In fact, that leads right into our topic today.
It does, yeah. Be the energy that you want to attract. I love that when I saw that on your timeline today. What inspired you to post that? Was it this, what we're talking about here?
You're asking me to actually remember like more than 9 seconds ago in my ADD brain. There was something that did it. I have no clue what it was, but I feel very inspired when when I live within what I'm trying to attract. I feel very inspired with that. And what I mean by that is just that joy you're talking about, that energy we put out. we are attracting at any point in time. This is law of attraction 101, that and that vibrational energy or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But I was explaining this to a new client. He's a great guy. He's an attorney, and he's really buying in and getting into this law of attraction. I described it as there's a whatever local radio station you listen to, it's putting out on a certain frequency, and your radio dial matches that frequency, and it's only picking up that frequency. And that is sort of the law of attraction. What you're putting out is we're transmitting and we're receiving energy. So you're looking for matching energies or frequencies. So joy puts out the energy of joy. It puts that, when you're grateful, you put out the energy of gratitude. And again, the responding frequency back, it is that matching energy. If it's negative and you're anticipating, one of my Facebook friends, I doubt she's listening, but I haven't commented on this yet, but she made the post earlier today that she has hit every red light on her way to work. And I hope my day isn't going to be that way or something. And I want to respond, well, you're inviting a day of quote unquote being at every red light.
Exactly.
So it's about that individual choice of you can control what you're thinking and feeling and that energy that you're putting out. And when you understand that is where we go with this, and that be that energy, be joyful, be that little kid catching the baseball, look at the world with the little miracles, the stuff that, I wonder what happens. I have a gentleman that is a family friend, and his name's David, and he is a MMA fighter. Mm-hmm. And him and I were talking yesterday, and David is an incredible athlete. I know this family very well. I've known him for years, and this is his description, and it's not not my observation, but he's been sort of dabbling in the law of attraction, and we've been talking about that and what you invite and all the other stuff and how you think about it. Well, he has been at a upper amateur level of MMA, and he has a fight coming up on the 23rd of June. And if he wins that fight, the potential for him to go pro is, in fact, he will be able to go pro. And there's a certain person that he's wanted to fight, and he actually started thinking, well, if I win that fight, I'll have the ability to ask. I'll have the authority or whatever. I want to ask to fight a certain person who has a title, and it'll be like a regional title for MMA. Mm-hmm. And he started thinking about that. Well, out of nowhere, the promoter he works with says, look, David, if you win this fight on the 23rd, you will have a title shot against this exact person. Now, he never said that out loud to anyone, but he was thinking about that.
That's
and
cool.
He started saying, whoa, I invited that. It's an unlikely scenario that was going to unfold that way. And it unfolded with his thought. And so he's now he showed me his vision board on his phone yesterday and what it looks like. And he's working on his energy. So people, again, from all walks of life are incorporating this way of thinking when they have discovery and putting that energy. And that's what we talked about. That's what I do in my practice, changing that energy. And you do that with, the inner dialogue we're putting out there. What are we really feeling? Finding things to be joyful about. You frequently talk about, laughter and humor is really big in your law of attraction practice. Mm-hmm. And, living in that moment of here's where I'm at right now, instead of focusing on the wrongs or this is incredibly, I'm anticipating the worst, or I want to catch every red light, focus on the joy of the day. It is where you choose to focus is that what creates your internal that energy. And that internal energy is what you put out there. That's what you get back. And that's that cycle that we just keep talking about. We say it over and over again in different ways, but this is the exciting part about the law of attraction. You and you alone are in charge of your emotions and feelings. Those feelings are what we attract back to us. So you literally are in charge of your everyday reality when you look at it that way.
Absolutely true. And I would also want to add, like when I was telling the story about the kid who caught the baseball and whose hero won the game and so forth. When I was telling the story, I mean, you could hear it in my voice. I was getting very excited about it. And what I was feeling was that joy, that glow that comes up inside of you when you talk about something joyful, right? Even though I wasn't the one who was going through that experience. I was living vicariously. I was, watching the kid do it. And I was telling you what it was like. And it just felt great. I mean, we so often live for having that joyous moment, right? And it's like one of the most common cliches out there. Well, they don't happen very often, so enjoy them when they come. Not realizing that we can create them anytime we wanted to, because that's what I did. I created that moment in myself. I did it by fueling myself off of what the kid did, but I took that moment. I could have just seen that videotape today, because I always check, what happened with the game and so forth every morning. I could have just seen that videotape and blown it off, but instead I chose to internalize it and to turn it into my own experience. And when I did that, I got the joy in a way that I would not get just by watching the video. I had to tell the story and bring it up inside myself. And when I did, oh, wow, it's just like I experienced it myself. It feels so good.
Right. That is exactly the point. That is everything that we have talked about, you and I have now for years. Being in charge of that, being able to implement that, and being able to take a scenario that has nothing to do with you directly.
Right.
But literally tie into that young man's energy, to look at his joy. And then it brought you joy to see his joy. And that is the energy he was putting out. You picked up on it because that is the energy that you were putting out and attracting. And it is, all of that is so amazing when you see it happen just like that. Every day there is countless things. I mean, unlimited things to be joyful about, to feel grateful about, to put all that excitement into, and it's right in front of you often, and you don't see it. I have, one of the things that I do when occasionally we'll have an outdoor sort of mini group session with people, and I will have people say, look, we're going to take 1 minute. I want you to look around. And it could be in a park setting, or in my near my office is this little area that's sort of like a little wooded area, and it's really nice. And just look around and without any spin or without any trying to get them to do anything, tell me what you're looking at. And so we go around, and this person said, some people have no idea what I'm looking for, and which I don't want them to, and they'll tell me what they saw, and I'm amazed at what their focus is on. I have a gentleman, I've shared the story a long time ago, but it just popped into my mind. I have a gentleman that I work with, and I sort of help his family, and I sort of do case management, and he has a lot of issues and stuff, and he's a really good guy, but he's a bit on the entitled side, and his family spoils him a little bit. He has a direct TV package that includes every single channel available. Everyone. I'm talking. I mean, he has nothing broadcast in the United States that he doesn't have access to, and it's amazing. I've never seen it. The package is ridiculously expensive, and I didn't even know it existed, but it just includes everything. So one day I get a call from him I think there's something, he has access to like 980 channels.
Wow.
And so he called, and I called him back, and he said, my C-SPAN 5 or whatever, like there's multiple C-SPANs, and, it might have been 3 or 5. One of my C-SPANs is not working. And I was sort of shocked by that. And I go, well, do you even watch C-SPAN? He goes, no. He said, no, I don't. He said, but it's not working. And he said, I checked it like 7 times this morning and it's not working. I go, okay, well, I get that, but you're focused on what's not, you don't even care. You don't watch C-SPAN. And so it turns out that there was a problem, but it wasn't with his stuff. It was just the broadcast stuff. But I find it remarkable that we have a tendency to focus on all that this guy has, 980 something channels, not counting, all the pay-per-view. I mean, he gets into thousands when you look at all the other stuff, but just
sure.
the direct channels he can watch. 980. I mean, and there's one that he doesn't ever watch, but he found that didn't work, and it drove him crazy because it didn't work.
Wow.
It's like looking at, that what is that void in my life? What is that? I want to go, I need a new car, and then it's like, okay, that didn't help. So I need a new this, or I need a new that. And I'm all in favor of new cars and new house, and I love all that stuff. But they're not going to fill voids for you. Fill the void first, and then attract what you want. But don't think that something is going to fill a void. And that's, the negative is looking for what's not there, and what's missing versus the positive of everything that's out there. It's such an amazing difference in perspective. When you look at what I have, the energy that I want to put out is that of abundance and fulfillment. Every single need that I have is completely fulfilled. There is nothing that I'm lacking in needs. And as far as pretty much everything I want, I truly today can tell you, I don't want anything that I don't already have. I can't think of a thing that I want.
That's fantastic.
And that's living in a place of fulfillment and gratitude. And somebody says, well, you could do this. Or Justin, my son, one day we drove by this house that was for sale, and it's this like 9,000 square foot home on the lake. And my son, he said, can we buy that house? I go, I don't want a 9,000 square foot home. My goodness. I don't want it. I mean, I just look at it like, why would you want that? I mean, this 3-acre yard, all I can think about is mowing and repairing. And no. We have an incredible home. We have a 2,200 square foot home that 2 people share. That's plenty of room per person. And, we have a home in Florida. We have plenty of stuff. So I focus on what we have versus what we don't. And he truly was just mentioning, he wouldn't want to live in it either. It's too big. Yeah. But that energy, Walt, that you're putting out is exactly that. What are you doing with your life? When you're desperate for money, the law of attraction picks up on, well, this guy must enjoy being desperate for money. So let's meet him where he's at.
Let's make him more desperate.
It doesn't respond. Yeah, let's make him more desperate. Versus the abundance factor keeps bringing more abundance into your life.
Yeah, very, very, very big difference. And again, one of the reasons I love our listenership so much, and I want to take a moment also to welcome new listeners, because particularly with the book that we put out, we are getting a lot more people who are trying us out for the first time. We have a lot of subscribers who regularly listen, and that's what I want to tell the new listeners about, how to subscribe, because it's great to listen to the shows, but it's so much easier when they just flow to your phone and all you have to do is just flick a button and bam, they're there every single time. Well, that's what the point of subscription is. All the instructions on how to become a subscriber can be found on our homepage at loatoday.net, right below where the player is that you can listen to when you want to listen to the live broadcast as opposed to the podcast recording. But the instructions are there. It takes like a minute, maybe 2 if you're really, really slow. It's really easy to do. And it's so worthwhile because the people who do subscribe, we can see this from the numbers. They listen to like 30 to 45 episodes a month. So clearly they're just putting it on and leaving it on all day because they want not just a daily dose of happy. They want the dose to go on and on and on and on. They just want to keep playing it and playing it and playing it. And of course, with all the episodes we do, there's plenty of it to play. So take a moment and subscribe and welcome to the family. Welcome to the club, because we love our fans and we love our listeners and we love the fact that you're joining us. Just want to make sure that you feel welcome enough to do that. So thank you, and subscribe and share.
Well, we mentioned last week, I think, when you and I first started this, we were doing pretty much doing it ourselves. We were talking to ourselves every week, and we enjoyed it. And we did it a lot with that. We really have
for a few years, yeah.
And really, really enjoyed it. And it's something. And as this has caught on, as we always knew it would, and as it grows at this incredible rate, and us getting to this point of discovery where, we have we are getting what we wanted, and then you hear these incredible listeners, and you hear the feedback, and you see the people listening to multiple episodes. We can't stress enough that while this originally just started as sort of a thought, they have become a vital part of our show. In fact, it's if we don't mention them enough, I do want to make sure it's greatly appreciated. And the beauty of all the different people doing the show, if I'm not your cup of tea, and I don't expect to be everyone's cup of tea, there are other people doing the show with Walt that have a different spin, or that's the beauty of what we do, Walt. It's there's different people to match different people what they're seeking, and I love that. I love the fact we have the flexibility to have within. We all believe in basically the same thing with the law of attraction, but we do have variances in how we get there in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, we do. And in fact, the fact that people are continuing to subscribe and continuing to listen because of that diversity of perspectives means that over time, we're going to be able to add even more and more perspectives, which is part of the dream, part of the goal here. We want to be able to broadcast more often. Well, that means you have to have more hosts and co-hosts doing the broadcasting, and that means you have to have listeners to draw them in to do the broadcast in the first place. So, one just kind of feeds the other. And that, I think that's why I keep wanting to emphasize how much we love our listeners, because the listeners make that possible. They make this whole thing possible.
Yes.
And it's great. I just,
yes.
I get chills. I do. I get chills. It goes right down my spine.
That's what makes it exciting. All of this helps me with, at least in my opinion, all this helps me with my view of personally where I want to be able to, I feel driven to deliver this message. I feel driven to sort of put it out there. This has been a journey, continues to be a journey for me. I don't know it all. I don't claim to know it all. I love to hear other opinions. I love, not in a negative way, I love to hear contrasting points of view. Mm-hmm. And not everybody can live I don't consider myself wrong if someone agrees or disagrees with me, if that makes any sense. I'm very much I love to hear the other perspectives, because I do believe, and I almost got into a Facebook war the other day, and luckily a dear friend of mine stopped, but I do believe that everybody's path is different, and everybody's truth in certain areas is different. And your truth is developed by what you've been through. So what worked for me may not work for everyone out there. There's no argument with the law of attraction, but I do see people using it in different ways, and they have different thoughts. I'm a very action-oriented law of attraction guy. I believe that the action portion is really big. I know people that don't agree with that. And I'm great with them not agreeing. I'm not going to debate whether they're right or wrong. I can only state for my truth. As we talked about that doctor last week, good friend of mine that told me the law of attraction didn't work, and I stopped him and said, "No, you don't understand. It does work because it has worked for me. Let's be very clear. Let's look at it that way. And once you understand that, then we're going to be fine." And so it helps a lot to walk through this and live this life, feeling it, seeing the action take place. I love what we're doing, Walt, and this is a driven thing for us.
It is. Oh, very much so. I think the topic today, be the energy that you want to attract. I think you're probably one of the best examples of that because of your action orientation. Not that there's anything wrong with being a thought person. I'm actually a thought person and a thought and feeling person. But being an action person, there's a great way to express energy really quickly, really easily, on demand, anytime you want to. And I know that's exactly what you do. I mean, you talk about when you go to the gym and the experiences that you have when you're interacting with your friends that you know from the gym, or when you're just doing your own workouts, and how it just lifts you right up. Clearly, you are flowing energy through your action. So, kudos to you. You found a way to give yourself that jolt anytime that you need it, that extra burst of energy to pick you up and make you feel good and find that place of joy. You figured out how to do it at the snap of a finger.
And everybody could find that version of it. I need that physical stimulation. I enjoy it. And when I'm talking to people, again, one of the most effective ways when you're dealing with someone who and I'm not talking necessarily clinical depression, but more of a situational depression, and life has sort of kicked their butt. You can sit there and clinically discuss how the brain's working and how that, or you can start talking now and seeing where their strengths are and focusing on this. I mentioned this attorney that's really flowing with the law of attraction right now. I've seen him a couple of times, and really nice guy. And he has ADHD, and but he's again very bright man. Obviously, he's an attorney,
sure.
But he's not thriving in his practice. And one of the things that he loves to do criminal law, and he loves to do, that's his favorite thing. And he's viewed that as, and I get this, that there is underrepresented people in the system. And he likes to be an advocate. He said, nobody, I'm not trying to get bad people off, but he said, there's good people that make mistakes. And he said, the system can eat them up. So and our system is set up for checks and balances. So he really thrives on that. But yet, and I found the contrasting discussion is we were talking about setting up goals and what he's going to do. And he said, well, I have this trust thing. I got to, he said, that's really difficult to deal with all the laws of the trust and the paperwork that has to be filed. And I said, well, it seems to me that we're already onto something here. You're out there right now. You're far out there mentally. You're not feeling like, but yet you're doing in your practice, you're handling trust accounts, which I would imagine is next to watching, a baseball game, probably one of the most boring things you could do. So within that context, I said, why are you now saying you don't like that? It doesn't match your skill set, but yet that's what you're doing. And so we started getting excited about how do we attract more clients that are matching your skill set, become a specialist versus trying to be all things to all people. And it's just to see his energy lift up. Then when we start talking about possibilities and what he could do, and then he's really buying into it. And he really loved the book, The Secret. Then he ordered The Law of Attraction, by Abraham Hicks. And so he's really in that. And I love to see the energy of somebody new in the Law of Attraction. It's awesome.
It is. It's fun, isn't it? Because you can. It's like you get to relive it, right? You get to live again what it was like the first time you saw it, and the first time you started studying it and kind of understanding it. And you watch the light bulb come on and so forth. That is fun. It's exciting. It's vicariously finally enjoying somebody else's joy. It's a great thing. When we're attracting the energy, or I should say, when we're being the energy in order to attract what we want, being the energy is one of those phrases that if you're not familiar with concepts of spiritual energy, or perhaps only slightly familiar with them, that can be a little bit strange. How do you be energy? I mean, what does that mean to you when you saw that? When you saw be the energy, what does be the energy mean to you?
I think again, simply my opinion, you exude the energy. You become the energy. You feel that way. If I want to be positive, I need to be in a positive mindset. If I want to be happy, I need to be in a happy mindset. When I'm living that energy, being that energy, I don't need to claim to be a law of attraction practitioner and whine about my problems or talk about how bad things are or deliver low energy. I want to deliver high energy, positive feeling. So when I talk with enthusiasm, we do this every week. That's what we do. We're the energy that we're projecting every week. When these hours fly by, it's like literally at the end of some shows, we're like, oh, wow, that was impressive. Or, just that energy we place out there. That's being the energy. I can get wrapped up into in minutia and have all my energy drained with negative, or I can just talk about this is what we're trying to do. I'm excited about this. If people pick up on your excitement, and it has to be sincere, Walt, it can't be this made up stuff. It has to be very sincere, very what you really believe, and that energy is what's delivered. Yeah, and it's out there. So that's being the energy in my mind. Do you see it differently, or is that pretty much your view of it?
No, I agree with it very much. In fact, while you were talking about it, I realized you can actually. This is part of why I asked the question. You can be the energy both ways, and you said that fairly nicely. You can be the negative energy if you want to. There are a lot of people who do that. I'm not sure if they're picking it deliberately, but I see it all the time. There's one guy out on the bike path nearby here that I go on. This guy, every time we see him out there, my wife and I, he always is in the same mode. He walks along. He's kind of a smallish guy, probably in his mid-50s, something like that. And he always walks with his head down. Always. Always. No matter when you see him, he's always in the same posture, walking along in short steps, head down, looking depressed, looking sad, just very pensive, always that same energy. And I don't know if he realizes what he's doing, but you can just tell he's setting himself up for more and more feeling down, feeling low, feeling low energy. He's being low energy. And I almost just want to shout out to him, raise your head and look up. Just change what you're doing a little bit. Just get a different perspective. It'll feel better. I mean, I don't really want to do that because obviously it's none of my business, but that's what I feel like. I just want to see this guy one time just jump up in the air or something. Just change that whole attitude he's got because, oh my goodness, he keeps setting himself up for feeling low, feeling low, feeling low.
That is such that in a nutshell is frustrating to watch when you, and it is again, the law of attraction at work that you can get trapped in, and I you know, again, I don't like to use the negative stuff, but just in a descriptive, just like you're saying, you can't see the way out. And even though you are living what you're talking about, there's no way to understand it when you're living in that. You're really in the middle of it. You're really there's no way out. There is the concept of another man that another client that I worked with in the last month or so. He came in and he said, everything in my life has fallen apart. He still has a really good job, but he's dealt with some depression issues and it just really drove him down. So he's sort of been shifted off to the background in the job. He was on a very upward, strong path into management. They sort of put him off to the side and he felt trapped and he felt that there was just no way out of it. And he was anticipating being fired. And he said, I'm just full of anxiety because I know they're going to fire me at some point. They're looking a way to get rid of me. I'm not productive. I'm not meeting my goals. And I'm like, well, yes, you are. Right. Yeah. You're everything you just said. So we started working on just sort of reframing that. And we took a deep breath and he took a deep breath. And I said, look, first of all, you've dealt with a legal condition called depression. I mean, we need to start with that. You need to go see your the employee assistant program at work. Make sure they're on board that, with that you've been in recovery, you're doing this and get them on board. Then your job then becomes protected sort of as a mental health issue. Then we can start moving forward and stopping the negative. And in 4 or 5 days, he just described a huge difference in how people were responding to him at work.
Really?
And he said, I don't know what happened. And I go, well, you are responding differently. So they're responding differently to you. That you were living in this negative anticipation of losing your job. Once that pressure was removed, and he said, my boss has been ignoring me. Any idea I'd send up, my boss ignored it. I just, sent some more ideas, and the boss said, that's a really good idea. Let's meet this week at 4 and discuss it on Friday. And he just like, where did that come from? He said, I've never, and I said, it's you. It's not him. It's you. You're putting out a different energy. So that's that being the energy can make an instant change. Mm-hmm. And, The Secret has the book, The Secret, it has multiple examples of that.
Oh, yeah.
There's multiple examples of all these things. I'm excited that I get excited when people get excited. If that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's why I told the baseball story. Even though I knew you hated baseball, I knew you'd get excited about the story, not because of baseball, but because of the kid.
Well, that's probably the most profound story because, again, there's very little joy in baseball. So that is exciting that somebody finds that. And
hey, I got to disagree with you. I love baseball. There's so much joy in baseball. So, okay, I got my thing.
Well, first, all kidding aside, it is more of a joke than it is a reality.
Of course.
It's I'm super excited. You're excited about baseball. It's just fun that I can pick on my baseball friends. It's more of a lighthearted type thing. I do watch the World Series when it's on. So,
do you? Okay.
And yeah, I do. And if I'm not sleeping at night, I will turn on a baseball game, and that does help. So,
everything with you is a backhanded compliment where baseball is concerned. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I have to come on. I have to come on the other side. But when our audience is when. If there's nothing else that's delivered in a day that we do a show, if there's nothing, you, the audience member, and you and I both, and everybody listening, everybody around, have the ultimate power. We possess the ultimate power. We can change the frequency of the energy we're projecting instantly. And then you instantly change what you receive. It's that quick. The only time delay in it, Walt, is what you believe the time delay is. That's the thing. What you really believe happening can only take place in a time frame that you can really believe that can happen. And that's how it works, because the law of attraction it doesn't respond to time. It responds to what you believe is time. I've often said, it's very unlikely that somebody making $40,000, $50,000 a year is going to go make $1 million next year. Not because the law of attraction limits that. It's just you have a very difficult time believing you can jump that much. If you believe you can go from 50 to 75, then that's always fulfilled when you really believe that. Then you can incrementally work your way up. But the concept that I'm making $45,000 or $50,000 next year, I'm going to make $1 million. We don't really believe that. So it's something that you have to have a matching belief that is something that's plausible. And that's because that resistance is, if you don't really believe what you're saying, then it doesn't matter.
Now, there is a cool thing where belief is concerned. I want to make sure we cover this part too, because you can change your belief. You can turn your belief into whatever you want to believe in. You can believe stuff that's crazy if you really want to, and it really comes down to one thing. If you're willing to focus on it over and over again, knowing that for the first 150 times, you're not going to really believe it, but you just try to keep believing it, try to keep believing it. Just the repetition of it, you'll eventually believe it. I mean, that's how propaganda works. A propagandist just keeps putting out the same lie over and over again, and eventually people believe it because they keep hearing it over and over again.
Well, and one of the things I am a huge proponent of is one of the suggestions of 12-step programs. And there's a lot I don't agree with 12-step programs, but one I'm fascinated by, and they probably were one of the first to really put it into great words. The law of attraction piece of this in 12-step programs is one of the phrases, or one of the cliches, is fake it until you make it.
Right.
Act as if you're that person. Act as if you're in recovery. And that is the most, to me, that was my path back. In the beginning, I used that concept, and a person literally told me 1 or 2 days into my recovery, so Joel, why don't you act as if you're a normal, healthy, functioning member of society? Now, it was actually sort of a mean statement, but it really, in retrospect, I really needed to start behaving that way. So I started playing the role of somebody in recovery. I wasn't in recovery in my mind, but I did learn to play the role of somebody in recovery. Mm-hmm. And I was acting in the beginning. And then about 6 months into this process, I woke up and go, I've been faking it, but I'm really in recovery.
You really got
there. So the faking led me to that. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And that works. That works in that same direction. That works in that same mindset of, I got to get out there and envision what you want. Envision it, believe it, feel it, emotionally attached to it. And then it can't help but be fulfilled. And that's the answer to it all. That's the energy to put out there. And you're in charge. That's the idea that, people don't like that a lot of times because it takes responsibility away from you. You are in charge of how you feel. You're the master of that, not some outside force, not the girlfriend that left you, not the job you're working or the house you live in or the car you drive. none of that's you. It's what you choose to be, and that's what you are.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly right. In fact, it's also one of those things, this kind of habitual keep fake it until you make it, change your thoughts until you find that you've actually changed your thoughts. That actually can show up in ways you don't realize are happening. And as an example, I would point to, I was early on using my nature walks, going out into the bike path and so forth, to pick up my energy and to get myself feeling better. And then I started incorporating listening to music on my iPhone, listening to my positive music list, and combining the two together. And within a very short period of time, I found myself just, smiling, just feeling good. I'd go out in the first 10 minutes, all of a sudden I'm feeling so much better just by combining those activities together. And then I got a completely unexpected result, because I usually greet people. You see other people on the path, and you greet them, you wave hello and so forth. This time, this one particular occasion, I had been only doing the combination of music and doing a walk for a few days. It was really, really a short period of time. And that particular day, I wasn't feeling particularly social, so I wasn't really greeting people. And these people were passing me, and they were grinning, and they were waving, and big hellos and so forth. I'm saying, what did I do? I couldn't understand. Why was I getting such a big reaction that day? And it finally dawned on me. I had this big honking smile on my face, and I didn't know it. I had gotten myself into such a good feeling place that my facial features had changed, and I didn't even know it. And that's what they were reacting to.
We have, that's so well said, because that is, people will respond to where you're at, and you don't realize it. And when you're putting it out there, and they don't like it, or they don't feel it, or whatever that is, they almost can't help. Go smile at somebody, and almost everybody will smile back. Now, there's always going to be those that won't, but most people are very, it's that way. Most people want to. I speak to everyone I see. Good morning. How are you? Not everybody speaks back. Most people do. I always smile, nod my head. Everybody does that. And if they don't, it's not me, it's them. I do not, under any circumstance, allow myself to get stuck in, sort of that rough way of thinking. I try not to get stuck in that of, well, I'm not going to be nice to him. I have an example of a gentleman. You mentioned the gym earlier, and I belong to several gyms, but there's one I go to predominantly. And for years, literally years, there's a guy there. He's, in my mind, I just used to laugh because he's so grumpy. He always has a frown on his face. He's miserable. And so every time I'm there, I smile, nod my head, and say, "How are you?" He will look me dead in the face and ignore me. He used to. And I would do that, and then he got to the point he would frown at me, and then finally one day, and he's an older gentleman, and I'm an older gentleman, but he's a much older gentleman, and he looked at me, and he with just this big frown, he goes, "Are you stupid?" And I smiled, and I said, "Well, some days," in a mocking way, and he said, "You speak to me every time I see you. I don't want people to speak to me. I don't want you to say hi to me." And I said, "Sir," "I am not speaking to you for you. I'm speaking to you for me. I hope you have a good day." That's all I said. And so I kept doing it a few more times. He would, it's such a, moment in your life where you're realizing, oh God, he had that awakening, I think. So randomly one day, Walt, he said, "Hey, how you doing?"
Whoa.
Yeah. I said, "Great. How are you?" And he has never, we never talked about it again. He always speaks. I know he's smiling more. He goes to the gym. He smiles. So, and I'm not saying this all I'm a factor in this, but it's not, I never quit speaking to him. Every time now he speaks, his mood's a lot different. I notice other people are speaking to him. This was a very isolated man. I don't know his story. I don't know any background to him. I just simply know I've watched him change his perspective, and that's great. but I was never speaking to him for him. I'm putting out the energy. He fought receiving that energy for a long, long time. And eventually he gave into that energy on some level, and you see the change. So I like that.
That is good. That's really good. It also reminds me of a couple things that have happened in my life. But one of them is on Facebook. I've seen a lot of people post stuff about wanting to force other people to, they want to track stuff for other people. Can I force somebody else? Can I force somebody else to feel better? Can I force somebody else to get off a negative track or whatever? And your story, I love it because it illustrates beautifully, first of all, that you can't force somebody else, but second of all, you can influence somebody else. And third of all, you do it not because you're doing it for them, but because you're doing it for yourself. I mean, that combination is an absolutely winning combination. And the second thing that I want to talk about ties into it. Sean Aker, one of the top spokesmen for the positive psychology movement, in his first book, The Happiness Advantage, he laid out, I think it was 6 or 7 different things you can do that scientific studies have shown actually will improve your happiness level. One of which is, on a daily basis, making it a point to smile at least 3 people during the day. And when I first read that, I was not in a good place. I was not in a place where I felt at all confident about doing something like that. Smiling at one person was a major trial. It was a major difficulty. It was like a stumbling block. Oh, God, can I really smile at one person today? That's how difficult it was. And I actually had to start at 1 and work my way up to 3. Today, I smile at everybody I see. And it's a completely different me in that sense. Well, I had to go through the first stage to get to where I am now. I had to go through that stage of trying to do it, just putting it out there, even though I didn't quite feel it. And by sticking to that, I actually turned it around. So 2 stories, they kind of go at it from a different perspective, different way of looking at the same thing, but they're both coming to the same point, which is, first, you're the only person who can control your own happiness or sadness or whatever it is that you're wanting to control. Secondly, you can influence somebody else. You can't control them, but you can influence them, and you do it by doing the first part, by focusing on what it is that you want most in your life. And in the process, you end up changing yourself, and as you change yourself and make yourself more of who you want to be, incredibly, you have more influence on somebody else.
Yes, that is, and that's the beauty of all this. And I do believe, despite the message that's being delivered or people trying to deliver to you, I think we're moving closer to a better place. More and more people are understanding this way of thinking. I think that the negative stuff gets the attention pretty easily.
Oh yeah.
But the positive stuff is where I feel so many people are going, and this is a needed thing. It is I do believe that one day more, we will have sort of a turning point where the majority of people understand this. But it's an uphill battle because we are fighting such I'm trying to come up with the concept, but sort of a propaganda, we're an indoctrination of negative because everything is out there coming to you based on the negative. And we talked about the news before, and they're not bad people. What the point of any network is to make money, period. The stuff that gets attention is everything is evil and falling apart, and you must, please watch us, stay tuned.
Yeah,
It's sort of like the September 11th thing. How many times did we watch those planes flying into the building? I mean, it just
too many,
over and too many, and it just became that. That was what was programmed. It felt like the nation was under attack. Now, again, there's some criticism out there. Sometimes we talk about that. I'm not minimalizing the event, but it made it feel like every building and every city was being attacked. Like we were under that. That's the message. We don't know where the president is. All this was just such a negative, and it is again a horrible event. But and those are things that's where the news, they understand. I remember there was a statement I mentioned before that I think it was at one point one of the head of the Weather Channel actually was caught on air saying, if we don't have a hurricane soon, we're going to go out of business because he needs a hurricane for people to watch the Weather Channel. The ratings are down when you have hurricanes or major weather events. And, they even gone far to name the winter storms, just to add drama attached to them and stuff, because again, it's part of that concept of negative sells, negative gets rating. Well, I believe positive sells. I believe again, the baseball kid, I think that's, people don't realize it when they watch something, feel the joy, and it's okay. You don't need to immediately douse it with whatever drama's coming out of Washington, D.C. or all the other stuff. And, I'm well into my news blackout for a long time now. I don't even know how long it's been. And while I generally know what's going on, I'm not stuck in that day-to-day craziness because
right.
it's just not relevant. Not watching the news has not affected my life in a negative way at all. In fact, it's been very positive.
And I agree with you that positivity is where it's all moving to. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that the attractive ability of negative is going to stop drawing listeners in or stop drawing viewers in or readers in or whatever, because it's not. I mean, that's going to continue to draw people in for a long, long time, probably, I don't know, forever for all I know. But my point is, and your point, I think, is that the other side is now starting to get more and more attention. That's why our show is doing so well. That's why we're getting all these great listeners. We're getting the people who are hungriest for a happy, positive thing to listen to. And we love that. That's great, because that means that's how we get the best listeners. That's why our listeners are the best, because they want the positive. They want the good stuff. They want the feel good. And we say, Yahoo, you're on the leading edge of where everything is going. That's a great thing.
And sort of to piggyback on that, when we did one of the reasons we did our book, our collaborative book with all the coaches and stuff, and it is that concept. There's a bunch of stories in there about daily stuff you could read about being happy, law of attraction, all the other stuff. And it's simply about happy stories or stories that people applying the law of attraction in their life, making great turnarounds.
Right.
And I really believe that something like that is what people get on that. It is they pick up, wow, these are great examples. I know you're in the process of gathering stuff for our next book. I encourage anyone that has this is going to anybody, this time, not just coaches or not coaches, anybody that has a law of attraction story that we're going to get several of them in and how it's worked in your life, how you discovered it, whatever you feel driven to send in. Just an idea. Even Walt's incredible about sort of constructing stuff from
I'm happy
nothing.
to write
He does a great job.
That's easy. All I need is to know what happened. That's all.
Yeah. Just tell a brief what happened. He'll tell the story. And so the idea, imagine that. So, I mean, and this will go on and on and on in various forms. And we're putting it out there. I believe this is what people are seeking. And the negative will always have pull, I believe. But when they understand, I do think people wake up and say, I don't have to be plugged into the negative all the time. And you don't have to turn out the news all the way like I do, but just take it with a grain of salt. At least balance it out on some level. I think that makes a big difference too.
Oh, it definitely does. I mean, I do allow myself to follow one little piece of news because it's been an ongoing story. And even that, I don't watch all the newscasts about it or anything like that. I allow myself to do a little Google search every morning for about 1 minute. I search on 3 names that are associated with this thing. I see what the most recent stories are, looking at the headlines. I don't even read the stories in most cases, and then I'm done. That's the limit of how much news I'm willing to expose myself to. Then the rest of the day is doing podcasts about how wonderful things are and getting myself into a happy, joyous place. So, am I aware of what's going on? Yeah, I'm aware. That's all I need. I have my awareness. I'm done. I don't need to inundate myself with it. I need to inundate myself with happiness. And so that's what I do.
And that's what that's part of that. That's the reason of the show. That's why we do it. And that's the effective nature of it.
And it's great. I'm glad that you do it with me. Thanks for joining me again, Joel. And I can't hardly wait for next week. That's the only bad part. I have to wait a week for you, but I love it.
Well, it's great to talk to you, my friend.
And we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.